Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a very special Irish Examiner football show, live on all social media channels and on the Irish Examiner website. We are bringing you exclusive round the grounds and news coverage of the final round of league fixtures. Today's league fixtures come from Division 1, Division 3 and Division 4. We will have live updates from all across those divisions. We will be dealing with issues as to who's getting into league finals, who's being relegated, who's being promoted, and who's just stuck in the middle. We will also be talking to special guests in the course of this program. We hope you'll stay with us, and feel free at any point on your social media channels to send in your questions, particularly to Eamon Fitzmaurice, to James Horan, and to Maurice Brosnan, who are here with me for the afternoon. We're going to stay live for the next 2.25 hours or so, dealing with all the up-to-date information and trying to keep you updated on this crucial weekend, and for some counties, the crucial weekend in their GAA season. We're going to start with events that are unfolding, Maurice, in Division 4. What's happening in Division 4 is crucial. To remind everybody, Laois must win in Waterford to go up, or at least not lose by so much that their score difference is hammered, but most likely Laois will go up. The last position, though, will be decided between, if Longford beat Wexford in Wexford Park, Longford will go up. But if they lose to Wexford, Leitrim can sneak through the door by beating Tipperary in Carrick-on-Shannon. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it? That's the unfolding story in Division 4.
Yeah, so if we bring it up to speed now, Laois rattled off 4-8 without reply to start that game. So they're home and hose. You would imagine they
scored 4 goals and 8 points in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, 4-8 to 1 point was when Waterford had first scored back, which maybe is a story we'll return to on the podcast down the line, Paul, is what is going on in Waterford football. But away from there, look, the way you need to look at this sometimes is kind of boil it down to its total simplistic. Is like, what's the scenario that the gods would get the greatest laugh out of? Like, what is the thing that would just be the absolute kick in the teeth? And you go back to the reason that Leitrim have Wexford on the head-to-head is because of that penalty. I think we've all seen the incident now, the push or non-push at the end of that game that gave a crucial penalty. Big kind of fallout or debate about that decision.
When Leitrim played Wexford earlier in the year in Carrick-on-Shannon, Wexford were ahead going into the last minute of injury time, and there was a kind of an exceptional decision made.
Yeah, a ball pumped into the edge of the square, a contest, and right inside the square, and a decision to give what could prove to be an incredibly decisive penalty. So if that pans out, that if Leitrim win today, they're in a good spot. Now, we should make the point, the way that game has unfolded so far, it's been nip and tuck. That game's going to look like it's going to be a live possibility.
Leitrim tip.
It's
a point. So basically, Leitrim and Tipperary are more or less level in Division 4. I think it's 6 points apiece at the moment down in Carrick-on-Shannon, and Leitrim must win to keep things going. So I think we can show now the way things stand in Division 4 and the scores as they are having come into us now. And again, just a reminder, Laois are in the box seat. Longford were also in the box seat on the way in, but let's see how that plays out as the afternoon goes on. And you're right, Maurice. Waterford are they're the bottom of the division. They haven't won a match all year, and it's a really sad state of affairs for a county in which there's a really passionate and serious Gaelic football section within that county.
Yeah, it's just and kind of an ongoing conversation. Aoife Fitzgerald would have really hammered this home during his 2 years there, that there's a broader conversation that needs to happen about where exactly Waterford football is going. It's probably worth making the points too, Paul, while we're talking about this division. This is the be all and end all for these teams. Like, this is their D-Day. They actually said that on the record, which was nice to see. Matty Clarkin had a good piece yesterday with John Hegarty and with Paddy Christie in Longford, who both said this is their number one priority is making a league final, getting it out in Croke Park, the momentum that will provide to them, regardless of what happens in a Tailteann Cup or a Leinster Championship, first. But that's their
if you see the scores, So the scores at the moment are Wexford are 2-9 to Longford's 1-2. What an extraordinary state of affairs there for Longford, who, if they won, they go up and they go down to Wexford Park, and that's a huge deficit.
Yeah, Tipperary could have a massive say in how this division is going. That game is still level there. That suddenly that is the game that is taking on at this moment in time is taking on the most pressing priority.
If you think about it, the one thing I will say in Wexford Park, anyone who's ever played football in Wexford Park or been at a match in Wexford Park will tell you that the wind that blows in from down the field there is fairly exceptional. Allowing for that, that is still a huge deficit to be taken in to halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. That Gale is a disaster. It's probably in the top. That Pure Stadium, the height into the graveyard, three of the most windswept grounds in the country, where there's, you can, as a journalist, you have your 4 or 5 point wind at the ready in your match report, because that's going to be a fairly decisive factor. But yeah, I think it certainly now from a Tipperary perspective, that game for Leitrim, like Leitrim were absolutely buoyed off the back of last week. That was a huge win. I was at their 20s game. Their 20s played Galway during the week. It was a 9-point loss, but they were a lot better than that on table. So this could be a fairly decisive moment for Andy Moore and for Leitrim.
Yeah, it's Andy's in. You got to say, when you look at those results as they stand now, Andy's in the driving seat there. You're sort of thinking that Leitrim are going to try and come strong there. Tipperary haven't been shooting the lights out recently, and such an important game for Andy Moore and Leitrim. Third year, really gearing up for this. So looking very strong. That's a huge win or no win. That's a huge lead for Wexford. So Andy's in a very good position, exactly where they wanted. They do their job. They get promoted as it stands at the moment.
If you look at it, if you look at it, we'll come back to this in a little bit. But in Division 4, this is the key to this is now, can Longford turn it round in the second half and tighten up that gap? But equally, can Leitrim take the opportunity which now presents itself? If we switch and talk about yesterday, before we go to the Division 1 games, which are now taking place in 5 minutes, it gives us a chance to talk about Division 2 first of all. And Division 2 was played out yesterday evening, and there was only one issue really to be decided in Division 2. It was who would join Kildare in relegation. Would it be Louth or would it be Fermanagh? Fermanagh had to go to Cavan and win, which they duly did. But for that to matter, they needed Kildare to resurrect their season, albeit from a zombie position, and beat Louth down in Carlow. So as I say, Fermanagh fulfilled their side of the bargain. They duly beat Cavan by 4 points. But Kildare were beaten by Louth, and I have to say, Louth were comfortable. It was nervous for Louth fans, but once Louth got a goal in the first half, it felt, James, that Louth weren't going to be caught by Kildare, and it's looked for a while out that those two teams were going to be relegated.
Yeah, you see that, Fermanagh finished what? They finished on 5 points. Kildare on 0. Even that's a significant difference. Like that's 7-0 for Kildare. That's hard to deal with. You're even looking, as you go into championship sort of mode, you're looking for something to hang your hat on, something to build the next phase of the season. Like a really competitive performance or a win. So that game yesterday was important for Kildare, but there was nothing in it for them. I agree with you. I thought Louth looked dangerous on the way they played, the way they set up at all times, and Kildare just the whatever belief was there and confidence there just getting drained further and further. So it's a terribly disappointing league campaign for Kildare, and hard to see, how they can turn around in a short space of time, try and get something to build on. Fermanagh, you can say unlucky or not, but the league doesn't lie that often.
Yeah.
So it is, with some very competitive performances in there from Fermanagh, they end up getting relegated.
I think Fermanagh can be very disappointed to be relegated, and I think the injury time against Cork obviously was the pivotal moment in their season and in Cork's season. But ultimately, they did go and play loud and got hammered in what was essentially an essential game. So they were doing. But Morris, you went to see Cork Armagh yesterday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah, just on that, we actually talked to Sean Powter about that after the game, about he referenced how much of a turning point that Fermanagh game was for Cork. And I was obviously at that game up in Eden Derry, and Fermanagh would be haunted by that. I think thinking back in hindsight, 5 points, it would be enough to keep you up every year since the first 2020. I'd say if you had 5 points in Division 2, you were staying up. But that game is gonna haunt them. There's no getting away from that. I was in Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh last night, as you referenced, and lads, it was a cracker, an absolute cracker. And I was going down the road and I was thinking about, was this a dead rubber as Paul has just built it there? And I don't think it was. I kind of argue strongly that it wasn't, because there was still a chance that Cork could slip to 5th or 6th especially, which has you looking personally over your shoulder, worried about your future in Sam Maguire and getting the results, and that's not a reality. You can just put that to bed. You can focus on Limerick in 2 weeks, bounce into that, get over that, and you look at a Munster semi-final. So I think from a Cork perspective, I can understand why they put a lot of significance in that game. And from an Armagh perspective, I also think I can understand why McGeeney went as strong as he did. And
I agree.
In classic McGeeney fashion, really wanted to win. And an incident right with Brendan Griffin in the second half, where the two of them, the referee Brendan Griffin from Kerry, the two of them went at it, and McGeeney was duly shown his yellow card, which is becoming a frequent enough event, I have to say, from covering Armagh games in the last couple of months. But so I've absolutely no doubt that they wanted to win that game, and they went heavy. And it was interesting, in the second half, Armagh were a goal up at half time. Peter McGrain goal. Rory Grugan gave lads a pass, and so he's such a great footballer to watch, because it doesn't always come off, I know, but his ambition to kick the ball is just so admirable. He always wants to deliver it inside, and they just have to play him at 11 and play through his hands, and I think that will definitely suit them. But in the second half, Cork were coming back. Rian O'Neill caught a mark, kicked it wide, had another kind of crazy shot from the other sideline, and was immediately taken off, which I thought was interesting. And his form is, again, another conversation we might return to. His form wasn't necessarily there, but Cork suddenly were back in the driving seat. They played an inside line of Chris O'Jones, Conor Corbett, and Brian Hurley, and they were conceding the kick out, but it's a classic thing. You concede the kick out to two cornerbacks, but you set that trap high. So throughout the first half, the majority of Armagh scores came off the kick out. They conceded, even with the wind, a gale of a wind in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And then in the second half, they still conceded, but as soon as that cornerback got the ball, they pounced on them. 2 quick high turnovers, 2 goals. They're in the driving seat. They concede a goal at the back end of the game, ball into Micheál Martin, an Adrian Newton shot to drop short. He doesn't catch it. It drops, and it's a goal. Roy Grugan actually punched the goal. They actually had one final attack. They milked the clock, the classic thing, the basketball now. You have 2 minutes left here, so you take those entire 2 minutes, slow it down, get one final shot. We're not going to lose this game no matter what. And Stephen Sherlock has a shot kind of under the stand that just tails wide, and they don't get the win. But from a majority perspective, I think Cork are in a decent place. They've got their championship team now. Sean Powter is playing as a centre forward. He's playing as a centre forward.
Morris, we're going to come back and talk about Cork and Armagh and whether they are viable contenders for the All Ireland or for their provincial championships. And we will do that. When we record the podcast later this afternoon, which will be available to subscribers all from this evening onwards. But Eamon, the Division 1 games have just started.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Kerry Galway here in Killarney. Paul, Kerry have just gone 1 point up. they won the throw and then went straight up the field. Joe Connor punched a good score. Conditions, there's been a good bit of rain in Kerry this morning, and it seems to have dried up at the moment, which should lend to kind of a fast game in Fitzgerald Stadium. It can take that wet. There's no changes in the teams they play selected. Galway are actually on the attack here now. Kerry have it back again. Teams have played as selected. So Kerry, the first thing you do, it's like back in the day with the All Blacks. You look at Dan Carter and Richie McCord, they're playing, and you know it's a full-strength team. Then the two Cliffords aren't starting for Kerry, but they are getting chance to get game time into the likes of Stephen O'Brien, Paul Ganey, get Killian Spillane some game time, give Armin Heinrich a start. Killian Spillane has just had a shot at the post, kicked it wide. Give Armin Heinrich a start, giving Dylan Casey an audition at full back in Jason Foley's absence. Barry O'Sullivan starting midfield again to give him another chance there. So that interesting from Kerry's point of view. They look to be going at it from the first couple of minutes. Galway then as well as selected. Liam Silk is back in. I think it's his first, Morris might correct me, but I think it's his first game since the 2022 All-Ireland final. Rob Finnerty's back from last weekend, an important player. More chances for the likes of Rory Cunningham, Killian O'Careen, and Paul Conroy's back in the middle of the field as well. Seamus Mulher is refereeing it, and TG Carr now are just cutting to Crow Park, and great save from Niall Morgan from, I think it's Larkin O'Dell had a shot for a goal there. So all happening already, Paul.
Yeah, it's and in a way, there's Kerry Galway really matters for both of those teams, and if Kerry really for different reasons. Though I think Kerry, I think you hit the nail on the head, Eamon, about Kerry having a look at those key forwards who are essential and will have to be essential for the summer when it comes. But for Galway, they must presume that Roscommon are going to shock the world and beat Derry up in Celtic Park. They must presume that, and Galway must win. We'll find out a lot, I think, about Galway and where Galway are at by how they performed today. Is that how you see it, James?
Yeah, I think so. You know, just looking at the Galway team, defensively they're very strong. That's their strongest defense and midfield. That's very close to their championship panel. So they'll be competitive.
Is Kieran Malloy not a starter for you?
Well, like I know, yeah, but I was looking at their subs. Kieran Malloy, Mulkern, O'Flaherty, I think, is very good. Jack Lynn, you know, for defenders, if they get those guys back playing the way they can, that's a very strong defensive unit. They have a very strong defensive unit to pick from. Kieran Malloy, the game is running, right? You know, obviously with his injury, to get back to the level he was at after a cruciate can take time. We see with Tommy Conroy, you know, had a cruciate as well. Just get fellas that are based on huge pace and movement. It can take them a while to really get back to the top of the game. So that's what I'd assume. Kieran might be at full tilt yet, but when he is, of course, he'd be very competitive for a certain position. So I expect this Kerry Galway to be a really good game today. And even looking at it so far, there's a good tempo, good pace to it. A lot of tackling, a lot of movement. So looking forward to a good game.
In Division 4, by the way, with the second halves soon starting, Wexford went in 2-10 to 1-2 up on Longford. I would not have thought that score was feasible beforehand, but because Leitrim went in 7-6 on Tipperary at halftime, as things stand, it would be Laois and Leitrim who would be promoted, and Wexford would be squeezed out by virtue of the head-to-head between Leitrim and Wexford. So again, in that division, it's just starting into the second half in that game. Morris, the Division 3 matches that start at 2:00. What are the key matches there for people who are waiting for those to take place?
Down in Clare is the not the be all and end all, but I suppose, but it's the blockbuster game in Newry. Kind of a huge moment, I think, for for Conor Laverty and the trajectory of this down teams, and when they went from a league where they were wiped, all sorts of issues under James McCartan, probably had ambitions of promotion kind of immediately. It didn't pan out. I think as a down team, they might have put a huge amount of stock into Ulster Championship and had a big disappointment with that Armagh game when they conceded 4 goals in an Ulster semi-final and went into a Tailteann Cup. And in a lot of our minds, definitely in my mind anyway, they were favourites in that competition from the get-go. You kind of had them earmarked and to get to a final and were turned over by Meath. It's funny, I was at the McKenna Cup provincial launch earlier this year, and I was talking to Chris Laverty, the down captain, and he referenced, that was a kind of a moment under trajectory, and it was great to see down flags around the county and all that kind of thing. But he had a good line where he said, "We don't want to be the curtain raiser for the bigger games anymore." And I think they were, despite the fact they didn't win a Tailteann Cup, they were kind of determined that they weren't going to compete in one again. So now they've got a kind of a huge day today to deliver. And I don't think it's a free shot for Clare and for Mark Fitzgerald, but did any of us, when we were looking at all the players who were opting out at the start of the year, really think that they had any chance of promotion, really? Colm Collins, kind of a stalwart, steps away there. His tenure is over. Felt a bit like they were building from scratch again, and they're right in the conversation here. So that's the game that you earmark that one to see who winner is effectively going up. You'd still back down, I think, but from a Clare perspective, there's no pressure on him. It's a complete free hit. We'll have Brendan O'Brien there, so we'll hear from him later.
And it is fascinating that in Division 3, all 4 games are in play from 2:00, obviously, but they all matter, because if the result between Down and Clare goes in favour of Clare, then Westmeath must get a result against Sligo in Markievicz Park if they're to go up, or they won't go down, or they won't be promoted otherwise. Similarly, Wicklow, who looked dead and buried after conceding 5 goals in Tullamore 2 weeks ago, now go to play Antrim in Corrigan Park at 2:00. And if they win, they'll be safe in Division 3 because they'll have Antrim on the head-to-head if Offaly beat Limerick. So all 4 games, Offaly must get a draw or beat Limerick to make sure they're up. Limerick are the only team who know their fate as things stand in Division 3.
Yeah, isn't it mental to think about where we talked about where Wicklow were at after the Offaly game in particular, and that I guess shows the nature of this league and how the margins can be relatively large and yet still fall very fine. That they come into a final round and knowing that if they can beat Antrim, they're fine, they're safe. The way that it could have pivoted from that, what was a pretty bad low, so quickly is kind of remarkable.
I spoke to Oisin McConville after the Offaly Wicklow game, and he was dismayed at the way it was gone. And really it comes down to the fact that they were at that point facing into going through the O'Byrne Cup and the league without winning a match, which would have put enormous pressure. They play Meath in the Leinster Championship. It's very difficult to see how they would have got a result out of that, having shipped through the league. And then you're into the Tailteann Cup and you carry that label of not having won a match all season. And that's a load to carry as the season tips in towards its end. Eamon, anything happening in Killarney?
Loads happening, Paul. James called it right. It's a quick game. I saw Galway last weekend in Salt Hill, and it was challenge game pace for a lot of the second half. This is the opposite. It's 3 points to 2. Galway lead. Killian Spillane has just tripped over a free, won by Dylan Casey. Soft enough free, to be honest about it. Galway have Rob Finnerty got a mark on the 4th minute. He got a second mark on the 7th minute. And Killian O'Careen kicked a huge point from distance then in the 8th minute to put Galway 3-1 up. Killian Kerry have fought back to get it back to a point now. And we're seeing above and Derry at the same time here. It's flashed to Derry, and Derry are just after getting a goal. Not sure, it's in the small screen. I'm not sure who got it, but Derry are 1-2 up there. But yeah, good game in Killarney so far, Paul. Plenty happening. Galway 3 points to 2 up. Both teams, really going at it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, James. If Derry have scored a goal in Roscommon, and Derry seem to me to be a team that are really good at using a system to open a defence and creating a goal chance.
Yeah, we talked about it last week when they were down in Castlebar. I was very, very impressed. I just see now out of the corner of my eye a goal to Roscommon. I think Smith has just tapped on in, so interesting one. But yeah, I was very impressed with Derry. There's such clarity in what they're trying to do, and for the kick, it was so obvious from their kickouts in particular. Just they have everyone overloads one side, and they have two designated guys that go the other side, and Kieran McFall has a very defined role in what he does, and there's a patience and a composure I think that's built up over the last couple of years of the constant winning, the constant building, the high level of coaching that they've got. There was just a confidence about them that I was impressed with. Yeah, so as regards a team that's going to be consistent and that's going to be there and going to be good all the time, it's certainly Derry.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about it is, so I saw them. I was up there for Derry Tyrone in the game, and Derry were comfortably better than Tyrone on the day, and they were really impressive in terms of a system. But what I did think was they were also opened a few times by Tyrone, and we know Dublin opened them. And I wonder whether they're as lock solid at the back as they'll need to be when it really comes down.
I'd agree with that, Paul. Again, last weekend against Mayo, even though Mayo were poor and Derry dominated, Mayo had 4 or 5 fairly clear goal chances.
Yeah.
So definitely, when they're allowed to set up as they want, they look rigid. But from sort of broken play, and when there's a bit of a scramble, and they're retreating, they're not as, when it's not as defined, there's definitely a chance there. So obviously, if you can have really fast attacks, you get turnovers and get attacks against them, it's a different regime. But when they're set up for a set play or whatever, they're very strong from there. But certainly, there's opportunity.
And that's exactly it, James. It was funny. The runners who came through from Tyrone came piling straight through the middle of the defense. We're going to go now to Derry and Roscommon, where Michael McMullen is reporting for the Irish Examiner, is in Celtic Park, and can tell us, Michael, what way is the game now? I think Michael, we're just going to come there. I think Michael is on mute at the moment, so we'll come to Michael now in 1 second.
To Celtic Park, Shane McGuigan kicking for a Derry lead.
So sorry, Michael, we lost you there at the beginning. Can you tell me what the score?
15 minutes gone, and the sides are level at 1-3. To Shane McGuigan goes for a lead point for Derry. He's kicking into the change room end. It's short into Conor Carroll. Enda Smith blazed a goal chance over in the first minute to open the scoring, and at the other end, Conor Glass did something similar with a goal chance. Then came 2 goals inside a minute, one from Declan Cassidy and one at the other end, a bizarre one where it bounced over the top of everybody, and Donny Smith flicked it into an empty net, and Roscommon on the attack through Rory Fallon. But 16 minutes gone, and it's 1-3 each here at Celtic Park.
Is it much of a game, Michael?
It's sort of messy a bit, I suppose. The goals are it's tight. I suppose Derry have made so many changes. Gareth McInnes off with a facial injury after 8 minutes. Brenton Rodgers on, but long way to go. But you can see Roscommon have a lot more to gain out of today's game than Derry. But positive enough start from them.
Is in terms of the crowd who are at that game, have many gone up from Roscommon?
Yeah, there's a sizable crowd from Roscommon, and Enda Smith just hit the post. Again, he was inside. Stand full, Paul, not a massive Roscommon crowd, but you can see pockets of it. But it's the story of the team that has most to play for, are definitely in the ascendancy here at the moment. But Derry just left very open. There's 2 or 3 goal chances here that they've gave up, and Paul Cassidy on the attack at the other end.
Okay, Michael, we'll come back to you in a little bit, and to see how that game is progressing. Thank you very much, and we'll talk in a bit. The way the way the league is panned out, it is very interesting, James, that Derry seem, according to Michael, they are not really flat out today, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, they need to win or draw today, right? To be guaranteed of league. So I'm sure they'll still back themselves. It's early in the game. I'm sure they feel they can do what's needed to win that game to get to the league final. There's no doubt they want to win a league final and progress and win everything. We saw that in the McKenna Cup. We saw it in every game they played. The teams that they played, they want to win absolutely every single game under Mickey Hart. So they'll be fully expecting to win this game, go in top of the table, go in, win a league final, and kick on from there. So but when you're at a certain stage and championships over the horizon, and be interested in naming thoughts on this, unknown to yourself, nearly in the subconscious, that a team might drop a little bit, and obviously a team fighting for its life, you're fighting for two different. The motivations are different, and that can sometimes. Even though the manager will be in the dressing room and the prep and everything will be, we go out to perform at our highest, and that'll be enough for us to win the game. But there might be just a little drop off of a percent or two in a week leading into the last game like this.
By the way, for those of you who are interested in Division 4, Longford are after getting 2 goals down in Wexford Park, but Wexford have tipped over a couple of points, so it's 2-11 to 2-4 as things stand. So still 7 points, but but Longford coming with something of a burst. And then in Carrick and Shannon, Leitrim have put on a couple of more points and now lead 9-6 against Tipperary. In the other game, there is no immediate sign of a Waterford comeback. Laois have 4-14, and Waterford have pushed out to 5 points. But I think we can say with absolute confidence, allowing for miracles do happen in sport, we can say that Laois are going to be promoted. And by the way, the irrelevant rubber in Division 4 is Carlow London, which Carlow are 4 points up on London as things stand. Eamon, anything happening down with Kerry and Galway?
Yeah, it's been a bit scrappy the last 5 minutes or so, Paul, but conditions, it's a great contest, and conditions are actually lending to the entertainment because there's lots of contests. The ball is being broken away. It's up and down the field. Stat has just come up on the screen there that Kerry have won 3 turnovers and Galway have won 5. Since you were last here, Paul Conroy got a great score. If you can imagine in Killarney, the scoreboard end, out in front of the stand, 20-metre line, maybe 5 metres in from the sideline, kicked an outstanding score. So Galway are 4-2 ahead at the moment. Kerry have been kind of turning the ball over in the last third due to good Galway defensive play more so than anything else. So similar to what James mentioned about Derry there's, you can see that Galway have a lot to play for, and their body language and their intent is clear in the way they're going at it. Dylan McHugh is just attacking here. I thought he was going to pull the trigger, but they've recycled again. But it's a good game, and like I said, plenty of contests, plenty of up and down the field action. Kerry are defensively set at the moment now, and Galway are attacking, but an enjoyable watch so far.
We're joined by Mortimer Murphy, who's actually at the game for the Examiner as well. Mortimer, is it as good a game on in the flesh as it seems to be on telly?
Unmute.
Just unmute there, Mort. If you unmute yourself, we'll hear you.
So in the rest of the games, James, is there anything happening in any of the rest of the games that you can see?
Just Derry are just an attack, just another point, I think, for Derry, yeah. So
when I arrived here.
Dublin are up in Crow Park as well, Paul, comfortably 1-6-3. Colin Baskell got a great kind of counter-attack goal, and they showed it there not so long ago. So Dublin look like they're cruising towards the league final as well.
And Mert, you're in Killarney. How does it look as good in the flesh as it does through a screen?
No, the atmosphere isn't great. Galway very competitive. Good catch there by Shane Ryan. Another dangerous attack by Galway. They're 5-2 clear now. Galway. Kerry scored after 20 seconds. Joe O'Connor punched over the bar, and they've only scored one free sense from Killian Spillane. So in 21 and a half minutes, they haven't scored from play, which is a bit disappointing. They turned the ball over a few times, and they turned it over again through Joe O'Connor. Interesting matchups though there, Paul, and that's we at the back. Tyg Morley's actually playing full back, and Rob Finnerty. Gavin White is playing on centre half back, and he's on Cian Darcy. And then we have Sean O'Brien playing it at on the opposite wing. So yeah, it's interesting that Dylan Casey is playing cornerback as well, so he's not playing in the fullback position in place of Jason. Kerry have just scored a point. Killian Spillane has put one over the bar, so it's 5-3 now. 22 and a half minutes gone, Paul.
And are Kerry playing? Are Galway playing with the elements, Mort, or is it? Or what way is it?
It's kind of, there's a drill starting now. It has been dry all along, but it's overcast. The wind isn't a huge factor. The flags are pretty limp, so yeah, it won't be a factor in the game, Paul. No, the wind is not. For once, we have actually got rid of the wind at Kerry just for this game.
You may spread the news to the Galway camp, Mort, that Roscommon are 3 points up in Celtic Park, that they're going to need to hold on, and vice versa. If Kerry want to relegate Galway, they should send for the cavalry from the sideline as soon as they can.
We have a couple of guys on the sideline, on the bench, all right, who would make a difference. But I'm not too sure I'm not too sure, Paul, what the desire for a league final. I think Dublin will beat Tyrone, so I think it'll be a case of can Galway survive, and they're looking well. They're looking quite competitive and quite well. Kerry have another attack here. I'll just stick with you for a minute, because here comes, I think it's Dara Roach, is it? And into the keeper's hand. Sean O'Shea, actually, into the keeper's hand. Very poor effort. Kerry, no, they're not playing well at the moment, but it was Killian Spillane, I think, off his right foot instead of his left. So yeah, not playing well, and at the moment Galway are looking healthy enough, Paul.
Mort, we'll be back to you later in the game, but I have to say that is one of the great classics of all understatements of all time, when you said that the Cliffords might make a bit of a difference. I think I think we can all agree that they will.
Yeah, well, Dave's out the back signing autographs, so we'll see if we can get him back.
Brilliant. In around the grounds as we speak in Division 4, it looks like Wexford have stabilised and have tacked on a couple of points and are 8 points up now in Longford, and Leitrim retain a 3-point lead on Tipperary. So the question is, Morris, will Leitrim will they hold on, or will they get done by a late decision? And will Wexford belatedly 6 weeks later seek justice or find justice?
See, I thought my mind was perverse to think that the only possible scenario is that Wexford are end up going to be haunted by the decision that was done against them before. But then I got insight into your mind, where you're hoping that it actually doubles down and that it flips across, that we get a great act of karma today, and that it flips. In Division 3, just that game, the Down-Clare game, that's the other televised game. Down started like a house on fire. They're 1-2 to no score. Caelan Doherty, a great goal, like bursting off the shoulder. Down, and maybe this is a credit to Kiermina Grinder as coach. Down remind me a lot of Derry, like the similar floating 5 men into the full forward line, huge amount of running power from deep. Caelan Doherty kind of running off shoulder, took a goal chance, it was saved, pushed in the deflection. A bit of a controversy about whether or not actually crossed the line. After a bit of consultation, they decided that it was actually a goal. They're pushing. John O'Hara's in goals for Down. I think a lot of us might have thought we would see Marty Clark maybe at some point in the league, given the amount of publicity that got and the talk about what he was doing. And I'm led to believe he actually,
didn't he, Morris? Didn't he play a challenge goal for Down?
Yeah, I'm led to believe he played against Cavan in a challenge game, right? Yeah, recently. So they must be preparing him for something. But they're actually using O'Hara's in goals for Down, and they're using him they're just squeezing the life out of Clare, pressing, Stephen Ryan's kick up, the classic thing. If there's an overload on the right side, he takes away the left side, and trying to rob the ball of him.
I agree with you. By the way, that Down's attack is it is structured like a little bit like Derry's. What I will say is that Down, from what I've seen of them in the league so far, Down were absolutely open at the back repeatedly when it came down to the squeeze in other matches in Division 4. Wicklow, who need to beat Antrim, are 3 points down in the early stages there and haven't scored. In the beautifully appointed Glenlisk O'Connor Park in Tullamore, Limerick are a point up on Offaly, and in Markovich Park, Westmeath are up as well. So it's one of those. It's one of those where at the moment, as things stand, Down and Westmeath would be promoted, and Limerick would be joined in relegation by Wicklow as things stand, meaning that Clare, Sligo, Antrim, and Offaly would survive in Division 3 for another year. In Division 1, Dublin are in Croke Park, where they're playing against Derry. Against Tyrone. If these no enormous love lost between Dublin and Tyrone over the years, and I'd say it's of some regret to Dublin that they don't, or some Dublin supporters that I know well, who regret the opportunity has been taken for them to relegate Tyrone. They were hoping that Monaghan would do a job for them last week, and that they would have the great pleasure of waving Tyrone down to Division 2, but that hasn't come to pass. Tyrone are safe, and they're currently playing in Croke Park against Dublin, but it is not going very well for them. They're 6 or 7 points down as things stand, James.
Yeah, not going their way, but again, we've seen Dublin. Haven't we seen Dublin over the course of this league campaign? I think when they hit full flight, they're at a level that's very, very high, that others will struggle to stay with. And just as Eamon said, it was Cullen Bascal that got that run through goal. We haven't seen much of Cullen Bascal throughout the league. Paul Mannion, all these guys yet to come back for Dublin. So it just feels, throughout the league that they're stronger than everyone else and are to get stronger. We've talked about, say the likes of the nearest contenders, Dublin and Kerry, perhaps, or Kerry and Derry.
We're joined from Croke Park by David Moran, who's at the Dublin Tyrone game. David, how do things stand?
I'm at Corrigan Park, lads, for Antrim and Wicklow.
Okay, thank you, David. How is that going?
It's Antrim 4-1 up. Kevin Quinn got Wicklow off the board there in the 11th minute. Bit of a nervy start from both teams. Antrim just clicked there after about 5 minutes. Ram McQuillan, one of 3 late changes in the team, landed a brace. Dominic McInhill with the other, and Big Rory McCann from Mahi Gallen, his first involvement of the season. He's been out with injury. He's come in, he's just landed a point, so it's 4-1. Just as you joined me, Wicklow had a shot, just came off the post at the top of the crossbar and out, so bit of a bad break there, but Antrim have maybe settled a little bit better.
And we're going to come back to you, so David, later in the game. Is there a sense in Antrim that they've lost momentum as this league has gone on?
Sorry, I just couldn't hear you there.
Is there a sense that Antrim have lost their way as the league has gone on after a positive start?
Yeah, it was. We were here a lot of weeks ago when they played Down. Both teams came in with 2 wins apiece, and there was a bit of a sense that it might be like a bit of a moving day. Down have pushed on. Antrim have 4 defeats in a row, so they're in a bit of a rut, but today's no margin for error for either team. So they are playing with a bit of an edge here. You can kind of tell that there's a bit of jeopardy today, and there's a bit more purpose to what's going on. So a bit disaster for Antrim to get relegated today, considering the start they made. So they've begun well in this opening quarter. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Thank you, and we'll be back to you later in the afternoon, David. We haven't mentioned Monaghan Mayo. Monaghan have normally starred on the last day of Division 1 of the league, and Mayo perpetually entertain us, James, for all manner of reasons. But it's off Broadway today, although it should be noted that it's Aidan O'Shea's 185th appearance for Mayo today, apparently, which is quite the story, James.
Yeah, I think he equals Andy Moran's record, I think, for championship and league. So an amazing achievement, and playing midfield today. And I was talking to guys earlier on this morning about that. And during my campaign, I suppose, and my involvement with Mayo, he very rarely, if ever, missed a training session. Never mind the game during that period. Phenomenal trainer. He's there and present and available pretty much for every single game, every single play. So yeah, an amazing record, and he's still competitive and still doing a great job for Mayo, and yeah, he's going strong.
And for those who are interested in that game, it's nip and tuck at the moment, but Mayo are a point up as things stand 1-4 to 6 points in Division 4. Just to give you your update as things move towards the end of those matches, Longford are not making inroads on Wexford. There's a 10-point gap between the teams, 217 to 27 as things stand. So it looks, Morris, as if Wexford are going to do their part of the deal there, but Leitrim, they will not be promoted unless Tipperary get a draw or a win against Leitrim and Carrick. And if Leitrim win, Leitrim go up. And at the moment, Leitrim are 13-9 up.
Yeah, and yeah, as we said from the very start, yeah, Leitrim in the driving seat, effectively. Been an interesting couple of weeks for them. I think the project is on the cusp of really taking off. This will be a huge step forward for Andy Moran and for Leitrim, off the back of a really disappointing 2023, and that result in New York, the carnival that came around that entire game, and a disappointment enough that they didn't get promotion. But there's a lot of positive signs there. He's actually over the 20s as well, and they have a good 20s team, lads. Like the 4 or 5 lads who played senior football are already a lot kind of coming pretty quickly. So this could be a massive week for them to bounce out of this into a Connacht Championship and launch a tilt to a Talent Cup later. It could really, if they can hold on here, it's kind of we'll go back to the team we said at the very start. This will be season defining.
And Eamon, we're moving towards half time in Killarney.
Yeah, there's been plenty of action the last couple of minutes. There hadn't been much. Mort kind of took the wind out of my sails there, Paul. I was really enjoying the game, and Mort. No, and it's just flashed to Tyrone now. Tyrone nearly got a goal into the hill, but it was just saved. In Killarney, Johnny Heaney had started to influence the game a bit, and he got a great score. Kerry immediately replied down the field. Then Paul from Dara Roach got a good point after a great Joe O'Connor driving run. Joe O'Connor's playing very well, both defensively and offensively. And Shawnee Shea then got another great score after more great Joe O'Connor work to kick Kerry into a 1-point lead, 7 points to 6 as it ticks towards half time. Daniel O'Flaherty's just come on for Rory Cunningham there a couple of minutes ago as well. So Daniel O'Flaherty looked to be going to his usual half back line slot. So I'm not sure from the telly who's gone forward. But competitive. And sorry, Morris, and Killian Spillane has actually picked another score for Kerry. So they're now 8-6 up.
Was that an injury or was that a first half substitution? Do you know?
I didn't see him getting injured, Morris, but he had been peripheral. He hadn't really been in the game. So I'm not sure. I didn't see him getting injured, and he wasn't he didn't limp off or he didn't have treatment or anything like that. But Daniel O'Flaherty's come on for him.
Yeah, but PJ loves the first half sub, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was non-injury related.
Okay.
Eamon, a question for you. Killian Spillane, just watching the game here, he's getting an awful lot of ball. He's terrorizing Galway, I think. How come over the years he hasn't nailed down a starting spot? Give us your take on that.
A nice easy one there.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll discuss so when I post 2018. So I'm not trying to. No, look, like you said, he's having a great game, and it's Johnny McGrath that's picking him up as well from a
Great
Dublin
man marker, yeah.
So, if you're doing well on him, it's a good sign. Killian's he's an unbelievably natural footballer. He's fantastic kicker left and right. I think the thing that has probably caught him over the years, James, is inconsistency in his performances, that he doesn't perform all of the time at the level. Even in the first half, we saw him there. He's kicked, I have him down for, I think, 3 great scores. He kicked another routine enough one into the goalie's hands, which it was completely routine for him. And he can just have those inconsistencies in his performances. Rob Finnerty just dropped one short there for Galway, and it's half time here. But he's a brilliant player, and he's a great guy as well. Maybe he doesn't work as hard without the ball as he should, and I think that can come against him at times. I think we saw the best of him in 2022 coming in as that kind of impact sub. He's huge impacts in those games. So probably the inconsistency is the thing that has caught him over the years, because I think certainly when I was in charge, and I imagine Jack is the same, Jack Adam at minor and under 21 level, you'd love to be starting him every week, because he does have he has a bit of an X factor, and he's a really good footballer. But in terms of depending on him to give you the 7-8 out of 10 week in, week out, you probably don't get it off him.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. He looked very
Kerry
good
at
today.
halftime.
8-6 at half time, Paul. Yeah.
Which is nice and tight. And Derry a point up in Celtic Park against Roscommon in Division 3. Clare have got a goal back against Down, but they're 3 points down still. And
great goal by Aaron Griffin. He went round the goalkeeper, and Kieran Downs rattled a long range free straight away after. But there's a big stoppage. Stephen Ryan went down. Not a tactical stoppage, a genuine stoppage. Went down to get some treatment, and it seemed to settle Clare a bit as that went on. So they responded reasonably well to that, and have settled. They're 3 down, but what was a pretty slow start is behind them anyway.
And Antrim are 3 points up on Wicklow still in Corrigan Park. Limerick are still ahead of Offaly in O'Connor Park, and Westmeath are a point up on Sligo down in Markievicz Park. In Division 4, Morris, as it rattles still to the end, Wexford are still nicely ahead. Laois are done out the gate against Waterford, but Leitrim are slowly squeezing away from Tipperary. The gap is now pushed out to 5 points.
Yeah, massive. Will be what's looking like a fairly massive result from a Leitrim perspective. You'd have to feel sorry for John Hegarty and for Wexford from the way they have responded to that and rallied from after, and had a really good championship, and actually bet Leitrim in the Tailteann Cup last year, and then had that what is looking to be a fairly crude result come against them ultimately.
The word, by the way, from Croke Park is that Colin Baskell is setting the place on fire as well, which would suggest that Dublin's range of options continues to grow as the championship heads towards a conclusion. And there was a lot of talk last year that Dublin didn't have a bench anymore, and didn't quite have a bench anymore. And it's certainly something that I would have said repeatedly myself, that Dublin's bench was obliterated. It now looks as if that was outstandingly wrong in what we see in what we see there. Do you think the second half, James, if you were the manager of Derry, are you really interested in the second half? Are you really interested in getting to a league final to play Dublin?
Absolutely.
100%, yeah.
Oh, 100%. Oh my God, absolutely. When you're in that position of league final, you absolutely go for it, and want to perform high in every single game, and talk of that continuous improvement, and we get to a league final, we get better there again in Croke Park, get the experience of Croke Park and everything with it, and kick on. Oh, 100%. I don't think there's there's any doubt there. But your point on Dublin is very, very interesting, and a couple of the new guys coming through, and not so you guys, Lee Gann and that, but ultimately, I think what's given Dublin a bigger panel is how Kieran Kilkenny's playing, and how Niall Scully's playing, and how some of those guys that have been there, done that, they definitely look refreshed this year. So that's why I think there's such a feel of so many different options now. And as I said, Paul Mannion's come back and etc. So it's some of their existing guys that not going through the motions. That's too harsh, but haven't been playing like they did many years ago. Seem to be refreshed this year. So that with some of the newer guys coming strong, Dublin look to have an immense panel again.
I was thinking about it though. I don't think Derry will play their full team when they come to a league final to play against Dublin.
So I don't know, Paul.
Will we put a wager on that, Paul?
Oh, well, I'll tell you why. Because they're playing Donegal a couple of weeks later, and everything that they've done before suggests, I think they should, by the way, I think they should come down and they should totally go for it. But I'm not sure that they will. I'm not sure that you think they will.
I cannot see Mickey Hart going to Croke Park for a national final without his strongest team and getting it set up. I couldn't imagine. I don't think it's it would be in his mindset whatsoever. I think they'll be absolutely going for that without question. In my mind, and where I'd be, I don't know what Eamon thinks. If you're in the National League final, you're going full bore for that, and the championship will look after itself because they've prepped well all year. They've played consistently all year. They know what they need to do to get a mini peak for each game, and I think they'll be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd be 100% Paul and James as well. I'd be saying no way that they'll go for it. I think all the kind of the talk about do teams want to win it and do teams want to be there and all of that. I think a lot of that comes from ourselves, and it comes from people commenting on the games more so than it. I know that when you're inside in the camp, you absolutely want to win it. You absolutely want to win. I mean, the National League, you can debate which is obviously Sam Maguire is the most important competition. You want to win that. Then you can debate which is next in terms of your provincial championship or the National League winning a Division 1 title. They're probably quite close depending on where you're from. Maybe you'll give one slight more precedence over the other, but certainly in my time playing and management, there's massive satisfaction winning Division 1 National League from the point of view you're competing against all of the other top teams in the country. There can be no kind of asterisk beside the victory. Of course, afterwards, almost in the dressing room, you're almost saying it is only the league. But at the same time, there's huge satisfaction, and it does give you great momentum going into the championship. So, I think Dublin are showing that today. I think any of the teams, interesting, the game that Morris was at last night. He mentioned this that it was being kind of viewed as maybe a dead rubber. It certainly wasn't a dead rubber for Cork. Armagh didn't approach it that way either. Donegal went full strength in their game last night, probably even a bit to their cost because I think Ryan McHugh and McBrearty got injured in that game. So teams want to win silverware. They want to get up to Croke Park. That weekend, next weekend, is a great football weekend in Croke Park with the 4 finals on. And you can't play in Croke Park often enough, in my opinion, from the point of view of trying to develop a team and then win stuff as well. So no, I of course, Paul, they're going to be looking at that Derry Donegal game, but both teams are above there. Donegal are in the Division 2 final. Derry probably, are going to be in the Division 1 final. So it's not like you're saying, oh, I wonder what Donegal are doing this weekend. Are they gone away on a camp, or are they doing this or that or the other thing? You're both above in Croke Park trying to win a national final on the same day.
Paul, can you imagine the message? It's, as a team, you're trying to develop and grow a team. It's about performing. It's about giving it your utmost. It's about, learning from it and incorporating the learnings and getting better every single day, etc., etc. We'll always be strong as we can. And then you come to a National League final and you're saying, you're pretty much everything about you then is saying the opposite. No, we're not going to put out our strongest team because we have a game. We're going to watch ourselves and mind ourselves. It's just it'll be an incredibly dangerous sort of mindset to spread across a team that's so ambitious.
in Division 3, everything is tightening up. So up in Newry, John McGovern's after getting a black card for Down, and Down have tipped on or Clare have tipped on a point. So there's only 2 points in it in that game, which leaves it really tight. Sligo and Westmeath are level in Markovich Park. As a deeply concerned Offaly person, I can say Offaly are 2 points down to Limerick, which they will need to draw, because if Wicklow get a win up in Antrim, and Wicklow have now recovered from a really slow start in Corrigan Park, and are now just a point behind Antrim as we approach halftime. So all across Division 4, all 4 games are really matter in this occasion. By the way, before halftime in Croke Park, Dublin have got a second goal and are now 12 points up on Tyrone. And up in Celtic Park, goals, as we remember, from each team, from Declan Cassidy and from Donny Smith. And Michael McMullen is reporting that there have been 6 good goal chances up in that game, with Derry 1-8 to 1-5 up at half time, in a game which Roscommon must win to put Galway under the pump. And Morris, we have a result down from Division 4 from Wexford Longford. And that shows that Wexford are 2-18 and Longford 2-9. So Longford's push for promotion has ended in smoke. These are the O'Byrne Cup winners 2 times in a row, 2 years in a row. They beat a Shadow Dublin squad in the cup, but they're done. And it now Wexford's promotion. Wexford's promotion depends on the result from Carrick and Shannon between Leitrim and Tipperary.
Yeah, and the consequence of it's interesting. You invest so much and you put this weekend on a pedestal. So that's, it's great stories that John Haggerty came out and said that, and that Paddy Christie came out and said that. But then when it goes against you, when that's just by sheer weight of what you've invested in a weekend like that, you're going to have to rally back from that disappointment. And what's ultimately to a certain extent, is your peak of your season. And now you're trying to rally it for a Tailteann Cup or a Leinster Championship first, obviously. But how they spin around from this will be pretty interesting, because this was the peak of the year, lads. This was the day. We went back to this was a direct quote, the be all and end all for somebody's manager. So when that goes against you, it can be tough to take.
And the result from Carrick and Shannon is Leitrim 0-15, Tipperary 0-9, which leaves the final table of Laois comfortable winners of the division on 12 points. And Leitrim second, beating Wexford on the head-to-head. That controversial late penalty deep in stoppage time a few weeks ago, ultimately the decisive score in that division. Which is
think about it, Paul. If you look at the table as well, isn't it so interesting? By the head-to-head is obviously there. By every other metric, Wexford have a better score.
Yeah.
They've scored more. They've conceded less. They've scored more goals. They've had 10. They scored 10, conceded 8. So by every other metric, Wexford had a better league than Leitrim. But that obviously that pivotal call below in Wexford Park is it's amazing in a 7-game league that it can come back to one moment.
Yeah, it's so that's such an important win for Leitrim and Andy Moore and the good work he's doing down there. And as Mara said, there's some very, very talented young players coming through. That'll give another huge boost. Andy, when he went in 3 years ago, gave a boost to it, and that promotion now will give a boost to Leitrim. So from a West point of view, it's a great victory, and Andy and the crew will certainly enjoy tonight.
You're sticking together, James.
Yeah. There is another story which we need to come back to about that table, though, which we will talk about in the coming years, and it is about the state of Gaelic football in the southeast corner of Ireland. So you have Waterford with a scoring difference of -70. I mean, that is unbelievably demoralising for a group of players and for a county to see that. You have Tipperary, who will kind of say loosely into that corner of football. Carlow down there as well. Wexford still stuck. I know they've come back again, but they're still stuck in Division 4. And you have Kilkenny, who don't even field. You have Wicklow, who may be relegated. So that whole area is under enormous pressure when it comes to Division 4. So back to Division 1, and we have Michael McMullen back with us from Celtic Park. What's the halftime news, Michael? Michael is just waiting to come in there to us from Celtic Park, where he's watching Derry against Roscommon for the Irish Examiner. And Michael, it looked early on, Michael, as if Derry were going to pull away. They got a couple of points and got a good goal, but Roscommon stabilised to a certain extent in the minute of the half and seemed to have had goal chances. And indeed, from what you're saying, Michael, there seems to have been a lot of goals, a lot of goal chances in that match. And then it's something. We'll come back to Michael. We'll come back to Michael for the second half of that match. Eamon, how do you see the Cliffords coming on in the second half?
Oh, I think definitely they will. Probably, knowing them, they're probably eyeing Jack up at halftime now. I would say, Paul, as in, when are we coming? I wouldn't be shocked to see them even straight away here now. But they'll be both anxious to get on the pitch. A home game in Killarney for them. They'll be looking to get on, and Kerry are the 2 points up, but at the same time, they're not exactly playing out of their skin either. They're doing enough. I know definitely I expect to see them all right.
I was looking though through the Kerry ranks and the new players. Heinrich, how is that going today?
Yeah, he's getting on fine. He hasn't been in the game too much, to be honest about it, in terms of in possession, Paul. Like his direct marker, I mentioned it already about Rory Cunningham going off, has been taken off for whatever reason. The other thing with Armin, like he's more of a natural halfback. So, even playing inside there, if that's where he's seeing, it can be hard sometimes to pick out in the television if that's exactly where he's playing. I'll try and see here now as they get going for the second half to see a bit further out. But he's doing fine. Barry Sullivan's working very hard in the middle of the field. Stephen O'Brien was very lively in patches. Paul Ganey has been playing centre forward and has been kind of a playmaker role, probably would prefer to be on the ball a bit more. Barry Sullivan has won the throw in and Kerry are away just as they've got going for the start of the second half and they have a free in. They've been doing fine, and Dara Roach got a point from play as well. So a lot of those lads have got good game time and good exposure under the belt so far today.
We'll be back down to Killarney in a bit, but Michael, how are things in Celtic Park? Has it restarted?
Yeah, we're restarted. We had a wait for Conor McCluskey, and Derry have made a change. They brought in Kieran McFall and Niall Toner at half-time. Half-time score, 1-8 to 1-5. 6 good goal chances. Derry lost Gareth McKinless to a facial injury after 8 minutes. But the 2 goals came within a minute. First, it was Declan Cassidy, then a sort of a comical goal that Tony Smith flicked home. The big moment in the half probably came 2 minutes to half time when Derry were 1 point ahead. Brian Stack pulled a shot across goal and wide, and since that, Paul Cassidy and Shane McGuigan with his least preferred right foot put Derry 1-8 to 1-5 ahead at half time. So that was a huge moment, and Dermot Murda has kicked the ball and it's went over. 2-point game here at Celtic Park. 1-8 to 1-6. Derry lead.
Michael, can I just ask you, those goal chances, we were talking about it actually before you came on, because I was up there at the Tyrone Derry game, and poor and all at Tyrone were, they had a lot of chances that day. James was talking about Mayo's chances over the 2 goals the last day. Do you see the same? Very team open.
Yeah, it's probably is a wee bit like last week. Like I compared last week's game to sort of a game in the backyard, and next score is the winner. It was that sort of dramatic at times, and Derry will probably be concerned that they were open on a few occasions. But I think you can't underestimate the fact that there's more in this game for Roscommon. But Derry obviously saying likewise when they made 2 subs at half time. They made 4 changes before the game. One of them was Brenton Rodgers, with many people in the county probably feeling he needed a break. He was in after 8 minutes for McInnes's facial injury, but Derry probably near enough back at full strength. Conor Doherty, actually forgot to say, he was one of the guys who started and seems to be motoring quite well. He went off with a knee injury in the Galway game. So, no, that's... probably
do they look like All-Ireland champions in the making, Michael?
Not at the moment. Definitely not at the moment. Thankfully, from a Derry point of view, there's a long way to go, but they'll probably be disappointed with their first half performance, being the fact that it was that last 5 minutes where they literally turned the screw. Paul Cassidy and Lachlan Murray with fairly well struck points would be a plus from the Derry point of view, but definitely not All-Ireland contenders on today's view, lads.
We'll be back to you later on, Michael. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. If we step to Division 3 for a minute, the scores in that division suggest that we have a really titanic series of second halves on the way, which will define the season and next season for quite a few players, and where they can set their ambitions and the situation in which they'll find themselves. And as things stand, Westmeath coming to half-time, we're a couple of points up on Sligo. Offaly losing in Tullamore to Limerick by 6 points to 4. Limerick haven't won a match in the league so far. And Wicklow have pulled it back against Antrim, and just a point behind as that game goes along. And at half-time, down 1-7, Clare 1-4. So every single game in play, Morris, in Division 3.
Yeah, so from an Offaly perspective, that if this result pans out, they're starting to look at that Wicklow game and hoping that Antrim can hold on and see it out. At the other end of the table, then down in Clare, very entertaining first half, despite the 3 points in it. Down at another goal chance just before half time, ball into the top of the D. Stephen Ryan tried to punch it, and Caelan Doherty again getting forward, and probably worth looking at what exactly they're down doing with their cornerbacks, and are they actually playing there, or are they just nominally named there? But he came forward, he got onto the break and kicked a good point. Clare were trying to, I think we talked about this a bit last year with Mark Fitzgerald's Limerick team, especially during the Tailteann Cup. They were like really aggressive with their press. It was very clearly something that they had went after, and they're doing the same here. But unfortunately, they've got a referee who's not having it. So you could see obviously not watching my commentary, but you could see the kind of the signal, the mouthing signal. They probably were roaring "How long," which is kind of a typical. You hear it a lot on opposition kickers trying to put the squeeze on O'Hare and rush him and get him to take it quickly, but it didn't work, and he gave a free from the 21 out. So, from a Clare perspective, it's a free hit now. Go out in that second half. If you can turn over those 3 points, and suddenly you're in absolute race. They've been really competitive for 35 minutes away, so they're kind of remarkable. Mark Fitzgerald Clare story continues.
By the way, the answer to the question of how long, every time that everyone asks of the goalie, the answer is as long as the referee decides. There is no time limit on that particular question. From Celtic Park, we've word from Michael McMullen that Roscommon have equalised with 2 points from Dermot Murta. James, that would be an enormous result for Roscommon if they could find a way to get ahead of Derry and to stay there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you think about it, the conversation we had about 10, 15 minutes ago that Kieran McFall on now, and Brendan Rodgers been brought on straight away. So that's absolute intent from Derry. So, but sometimes if you're a couple of gears below where you usually are, it can be very hard to crank it up when you need to. So that's a real test for them now. With Jim Murty getting those last 2 scores to bring it level, it's going to be that's a real test for Derry, because make no mistake that they want to win that, and that's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out for the remainder of the game.
Are Galway in trouble, Eamon?
They are, Morris. Yeah, they are. It's 9-6. Like, I mean, it's still close on the scoreboard. Kerry full back line are playing very well. Armin Heinrich is actually playing in the wing. All right, Paul Murphy, Dylan Casey, and who's the last one? Or in the inside, they're doing very well. And the likes of Killian O'Corrine, any ball that's being kicked in has been sent out pretty fast. Kerry are kind of on top at the moment. Sean O'Shea got a free since half time to make it 9-6, but Kerry have been doing a lot of the playing. They're pressing quite high when Galway get the ball away short from their kickouts. Our Roach is having a pop here now. I'm conscious of I'm probably slightly behind the exact live. It's gone wide. But yeah, they're it's similar to last weekend, to be honest, Morris. Galway are kind of flattish at the moment, and Kerry are kind of bossing proceedings, really. It's still only 3 points in the scoreboard, but Kerry are well on top. I don't know, what do you agree with that, James, or what do you think?
100%. I think for the last 20 minutes of this game, I think Galway started well and looked big, but I think for the last 20-25 minutes, to be honest, it's Kerry are dominating. Kieran O'Curran took a shot there from outside 45 meters on the right, out near the end sideline. Like, it's a shot that when a forward is taking those, there's no way he feels he can get past or whatever. It just, Kerry looked to me, to be honest, to be quite strong, and are getting better as the game goes on. So yeah, Kerry very much in control.
Monaghan, by the way, James, are a couple of points up on Mayo, and Dublin are 13 points up on Tyrone in Croke Park. In Division 3, the latest in Division 3 is that Down are now 4 points up on Clare, and Westmeath are a couple of points up on Sligo. It's looking like the key decisive game then will be Derry and Roscommon. And Michael McMullen reports from Celtic Park that Niall Toner has put Derry ahead by 1-9 to 1-8, 8 minutes into the second half. Morris, can I ask you, from a Galway perspective, you live down in Galway. How would it be received in Galway if the team were to be relegated from Division 1?
It's probably not quite the same as the first relegation when they were beaten by Monaghan in extra time, but actually ended up the best year they ever had was coming out of Division 2. So the caveat over everything Galway are doing this year is their absences. It's this insane injury list, which is improving to some extent, but you're still not seeing the real heavies back. You're still not seeing the Killian McDays and the Damien Comers and the Shane Walshes, and it's a fright, Paul, when you actually look, when you boil it down, you look throughout their careers. This is a team. The amount of time they spent playing together is frighteningly little. Whether it be Damien Comer injuring his ankle when he was playing five-side football on St. Stephen's Day and missing a league campaign and coming back in 2019, or Killian McDay struggling with his own injuries, or it's very rare that you have them all together. So the fact that you're have we seen any, maybe Eamon and James can come in here, have we seen any indicators from Galway that they're poised to have a good championship in this league? I would say no. I would say there's no sign that they've given really that they're in a good spot. But so you're putting all your eggs in the basket that, when these players come back, they'll be okay. Yeah,
they're under severe pressure on their own kick out, Morris. They've lost 3 in a row now. He got one away short, all right, but even when he gets it away short, Kerry are really pushing up and going after it, and they're making it very hard for them to come out. They've lost 3 long. Kerry have huge presence out in the middle of the field. They have, as well as their 2 midfielders, Barry Sullivan and Joe O'Connor, they have Armin Heinrich, who's come up and kicked a great point, and they've Sean O'Brien at the other side, who are 2 big lads as well. An interesting thing, though, is that if you can picture the scoreboard goals in Killarney, Conor Gleeson is kicking out from that side. Every time out to his left, Shane Ryan is marking one of the Galway players. I'm not sure which one of them it is. I just can't understand why he wouldn't put one out on top of Shane Ryan's head. There's a lot of space around them. The overloads are kind of going the other way. And challenge Shane Ryan to either go for it or to have to retreat off him. But Galway are under pressure on their own kick out. Kerry, it's 11 points to 6 now. Paul Ganey got a good score as well. He kind of half looked to chip the goalie, and Conor Gleeson got a good score. Paul Ganey kicked a wide there that he should have got over the bar. But
Roscommon are really pressing up in Celtic Park. It is true that Derry are 2 points up, but Enda Smith has just been denied by Aaron Lynch in the Derry goal. Another goal chance in a game which seems to be absolutely full of them, and it suggests that game is far from done and will not be done right until the end of it. Morris, I take the point about Galway being short players, but it can only take you so far, I think.
It's the caliber, though, Paul, that's missing. Like it's not like they're short a few, like they're short 8 or 9 of their starting team.
Yeah, and it is one of those that there are players who are missed more than other players as well, and the focal point which they can give to the attack and the players who aren't quite capable of
and even free takers can make a huge difference in the league, Paul. You know, they're missing Matthew Tierney and Shane Welch. Johnny Heaney's got a great score there now, their first score of the second half to keep them in the game, kind of a typical Johnny Heaney point from the right hand side, outside of the right, over the bar. But it's the 49th minute, that's their first score of the second half.
So Galway must push there, and Roscommon must push up in Celtic Park. In Division 2, Antrim have got a goal, which is celebrated not just amongst Antrim fans, but I can say will be celebrations in Tullamore about that, because at the moment we are people are absolutely reliant on getting a favour from our good friends in Belfast. In Newry, meanwhile, Down are a goal up on Clare, heading towards the middle of the second half, and Westmeath are 2 points up on Sligo. In Dublin, in Croke Park, goals are raining in for the Dubs. Cian Murphy has got a goal in the 46th minute, and followed by Colin Basquel in the 47th minute. That great Dublin trait that they had when they were in their pomp of following one goal with another, and then off you go on that. On top of that, in Tralee,
the Cliffords are on here as well now. Just sorry, Morris, to tell you this. David and Paddy have just come on, and Graham O'Sullivan as well.
We'll see what's more right, but can they make an impact? I wonder.
They already have. Paddy's just picked a point.
That's it would augur well, I think, for any team to be up and then bring in bring in the Cliffords to the things. It must be quite the demoralizing sight for a backline. Notwithstanding, James, the point you make, and I agree with it, that is a solid Galway. That's a strong Galway. It is a strong Galway.
Defensively, that's a strong. But like we were saying a few minutes ago, Kerry are dominating that game. Galway's energy has dropped a little bit. But that scoreline from Croke Park, you know what we're saying about Dublin, and now they're scoring heavy, scoring goals, being more ruthless maybe than they were. They're being more direct than they were.
Yes.
They're being more goal focused, score focused than what they were. You know, it's back to as you say, where they were at their palm, the scoring heavy. So going very well for Desi in Dublin.
It looks like Derry have got another point up in Celtic Park and now lead by 3 from Roscommon. So it's one of those games, though, you feel that if Roscommon are creating goal chances, they do have quality forwards. I will say, by the way, I think that a huge loss to Roscommon in this league has been Ben O'Carroll, who got injured at the end of the club championship, fell away from UCD, then was out of the Sigerson final for UCD, and then hasn't played in the league for Roscommon. And in the system, I think that Davy Byrne tries to get his team playing by having a forward like Ben O'Carroll as the outball makes everybody else play around him, and they don't have a player to replace him, like in there. Lachlan Murray has another point up in Derry. That's his third of the afternoon. And James, if that's another forward who's coming through and really taking another step forward on a day, that's a huge positive to Derry.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, many of the conversations, over the last year or so, has Derry the panel, have they the depth for a sustained, All Ireland series? And I think they do now. I genuinely think they do. They have players of caliber. We know about their underage success, the quality of some of those players. If you have really young players coming in at that level, they lift everyone ahead of them. Maybe some of the existing panel that were there, they give them a bit of a boost, and it lifts all boats, if you like. So yeah, that's again positive for Derry. But just on, like, can you imagine what Ben O'Carroll would have done for Roscommon in this league? On a fully split playing Derek. Like Ben O'Carroll for me is as regards a ball winner, I think he's in the top 3 or 5 in the country. He's an absolutely brilliant ball winner. And over the course of the last 12 months, he's added a higher scoring rate to his game as well. So a very dangerous player. But just on the Galway one, Morris, their injury rate over the last couple of years has been ridiculous. Like, so you have to ask the question at some stage: is it systematic? Is there something wider or what to have that level of injury for such a period of time?
And yeah, there's 2 points to that. The injury rate thing is really concerning, and there's players who, it's kind of a cruel comparison, but your worst fear for someone like Sean Kelly is you think, is this guy going to be our Michael Meehan? Is from a Galway perspective, where the 2021 James in the kind of final, he had a stormer in the first half against you that day and goes off for an ankle injury, and Galway fall to pieces. But just, lads, the thing about putting stock in this idea, when these injured players are back, it'll all be fine. Like, the greatest example of that is talking about Roscommon there, for example. Do we all forget that Ben O'Carroll played against Galway, and they played the exact same style of football? He scored a point off Johnny McGrath, I think, but it wasn't the saviour for Roscommon. It wasn't it wasn't yet. This idea that these players are going to come back, like, there needs to be more. You have to show more than just we'll be fine when everybody is back. I think if Galway could put stock in something they've tried, or an alternative to their goalkeeper or something else beyond that, it would be great. But we haven't seen that. So I'm wary of playing the game. Once all these players come back, will they come back is the first question. And even if they do, I'm not necessarily sure is that the saviour.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think Galway are playing as a team because there's been so much noise about it. I think they're playing as a team that are waiting for the others to come back. You get into that. Yeah, you get into that route. We'll have a right go of the championship, and you almost sort of forgive the league because you're missing so many. Because it sort of it almost gets into the psyche, if you like. So I agree completely. You play with what you have.
It looks like the big moment up in the Roscommon Derry game was just before half time, when Brian Stack missed with just a point between the teams. He missed a goal chance, and Derry have now eased out to a 5-point lead. Ethan Doherty has got his third point. Division 3 is extremely tight still. Brendan O'Brien from the Irish Examiner is up in Park Esler, where Clare look like they're pushing back against Down. Is that right? They're back to winning 2 points, Brendan. Is that right?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, there's actually 3 points in it now. Down, gone up the field again. Kerry's got a second of the game. Yeah, it's very tight. Down furthest they've gone ahead has been 4 points so far. They obviously had a great start with a goal from Caelan Doherty. Looked from the off as if Down probably might get on top too early for Clare's liking, but they got a very good goal in response from Aaron Griffin. A little bit of luck involved, defensive slip, but he took it brilliantly. And since then, Clare had a few problems with the free taking. They seem to have cleared that up. They've found their feet really. They were giving away points a little bit too early in the first quarter, but they've kind of cleared that up a little bit now. It's pressing high all over the pitch. Beautiful there for football. Very little wind. You'd still kind of fancy Down to get it at the moment, but Clare are doing what they have to do on the road. They're hanging in, and of course, the longer they stay in it, maybe the edgier it gets for Down.
Can you see Clare getting a goal?
There actually has been a couple of scrambles at both ends despite the goals. So yeah, I mean, there's every possibility that either team could get a goal at this stage. It's that kind of game. It's up and down the pitch. They absolutely could. It's not a very particularly cagey kind of game, and both teams are making inroads into the opposition defence. So yeah, absolutely. I don't think we're done with the drama here yet.
Brendan, you were mixing it with the Seagulls and Mario and Luigi at the darts last weekend. What's the atmosphere in Newry like?
It's pretty good, Morris. Actually, there's a very good contingent of travelling Clare fans here, even if the hurlers out as well. I don't know, is it just that there's a good cluster of them here in front of the press box, but certainly a very vocal opposition. No Seagulls or bags of chips yet, though. We'll save that for the road back. Might stop off somewhere along the coast.
Well, Brendan, we'll be back to you as things wind to a close down there, and in particular, keep us informed about how Clare and if they look like they're going to squeeze back into it, because it's all square. It was all square down in Markovich Park between Westmeath and Sligo, and as I say, all 4 games in Division 3 are still at issue because Antrim have got a goal against Wicklow, but Wicklow have come back a little bit, and there's only 4 points in it again. Across the country, it's reporting there's various reporting that Mayo are out of sorts against Monaghan. Monaghan still lead by a couple of points, and by contrast, Dublin just crushing Tyrone 5-13 to 9 points, being the latest report we have from there. And the sense that's, how does a team recover, James, from a deficit like that in the championship for Tyrone? Does this to what extent does that factor into Tyrone's future?
I suppose Tyrone might be unique in that they'll turn it around.
They went to Kerry, I suppose, and had a similar explosion.
Exactly. They'll do their thing and they'll get right. But it can shake. Look, I can remember being at a league game in Dublin early in my reign, and we were 4-4 to 2 points down after about, I think, 10 minutes, 9 minutes. It was, and I remember us as players of the team, we were shook after it, but learned from it. So, look at a really bad defeat at this time of the year. If you have a fairly strong team out, of course it'll shake a few things and where you were, and you might try and do something different or tweak something a little bit as a result. But ultimately you'll be, get your head down. We've work to do. You can use it to sort of fuel or give better direction for the championship campaign that's to come. So you'll soon put it in the rear mirror and move forward.
Eamon, what's happening in Killarney?
More or less more the same, to be honest, Paul. Kerry are still very much in control. They're not, maybe they're playing the final third is something they look at to work over in Quinta del Lago in the coming week, but there's a huge intent in them. Everything they're doing, they're tackling ferociously hard. They've picked up a few yellow cards. Brianna Beagliach has come on, which is a huge boost for Kerry as well going forward. He's been he's been unfortunate that he's missed a lot of the league again this year, but he's just coming back in time. Barry O'Sullivan and Joe O'Connor have been very impressive in the middle of the field. They've also shown a clip from Celtic Park where Oren Lynch did very well under a high ball, just in under the crossbar. One of the Clare lads was coming in challenging him, but from Killarney, very much under control from the Kerry perspective. Galway brought on subs as well. Kieran Malloy's come on, Tom O'Callaghan, Egan, they've all come in for Galway. But you can stick a fork in it here, all right, bar a Galway goal that might give them a bit of momentum. But they've only scored 8 points in 62 minutes of football, which isn't great, obviously.
Good news for Derry fans and for Galway fans in that Derry have just got a goal and they now lead 2-15 to 1-8 and are out the gap. And so that would leave Division 1 essentially set up for a Derry-Dublin League final at the top end. Kerry will celebrate the great delight and news that they can go on their holidays and not be in a rush back to play a league final and finish third in the division, with Mayo heading for finishing fourth. And relegated will be Monaghan and Roscommon. Galway safe for another year. In other news,
there's huge drama in Newry here, Paul. There's Daniel Guinness is after scoring a goal. I think it's Daniel Guinness after scoring a goal, but Clare are surrounding the referee. They're furious about. I think the whistle might have sounded just before for
that's what it looked like. Maris, the whistle was blown before he took the shot, was what it looked like.
But it looks like the goal is going to count. So that's a massive goal for down 2-8 to 1-5 up against Clare. Now Mark Fitzgerald is in conversation with the sideline official here. So Clare are clearly very unhappy about whatever happened for the concession of that goal. But down 2-8 to the good at home, they're looking like promotion on the cards now.
It would be very hard to see Clare turn around a 6-point deficit there. And of course, the knock-on effect that regardless of what happens in Markievicz Park, then Westmeath would join down in promotion from Division 3. At the bottom end of the table, Antrim are 4 points up on Wicklow. And the great news from Tullamore, from an Offaly point of view, I have family members who've told me that Offaly have scored a goal. They are the kind of family members who I half trust. So it may be truth.
168, Paul. 168, yeah.
168. So that would be that would take whatever is happening out of Belfast out of the equation. From an Offaly point of view, though, would still make it very relevant for Wicklow and for for Antrim. Any further developments from Down and from Clare? Is the goal standing, Morris?
Oh, it's standing, yeah. It's standing, yeah.
I'm sure we'll find out. No, it's chalked off, Morris, I think. And the score here, it's 1-9 to 1-5 still.
I'd say I'm maybe 2 minutes behind you.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was actually watching the Kerry game. I didn't see the incident, but just the scoreboard is reading 1-9, 1-5 in Newry now.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. So Daniel Guinness is running through. Brendan can give us an update in a second there. Daniel Guinness is running through. It looks like his arm is pulled. The ball stops. He picks up ball up, takes a shot. Brendan can fill us in on why it was ruled out there.
Brendan is just joining us now from the box up in Park Esler in Newry. Brendan, what is the latest? There's a huge controversy we hear.
Yeah, you're talking about Clare goals there, Paul. Pretty much immediately afterwards, major controversy. Daniel Guinness getting a goal for Down, but the Clare players were basically stopped, believing that referee David Coldrick had given a free, certainly signaling advantage. The ball actually bounced once past the Clare goalkeeper, clearly stopped. Scoreboard showed a second goal for Down. Clare players kept protesting. Finally, the referee consulted with his other officials and the goal was struck off. Pat Hevern took the free that was given in its stead, and it's now 1-10 to 1-5. So Down 5 points up. But at least Clare, who would have felt that their one defeat so far in the league came down to a very controversial decision. They won't have that to look back on, regardless of the result here.
I heard a great story, Brendan. I like the fact that the goal was chalked off, but the point was given. I heard a great thing from a club match in Fermanagh in the 1950s where someone took a shot and the bladder went into the net, but the leather went over the bar, and the referee awarded 2 points was the compromise that they came from.
Surely that's a goal. Surely that's a goal and a point.
Yeah, we could argue that, but so how long are we left with there in Newry, Brendan? And
yeah, we've got a good just less than 20 minutes, probably 20 minutes with time added on as well, Paul. So still plenty of time to go.
Down in thank you very much, Brendan. We'll be back to you down in Tullamore. Anton O'Sullivan has put Offaly 1-7 to 9 points ahead with 21 minutes 21 minutes left on the clock, and over.
Did you expect that to be, Paul?
Did I expect it to be tight?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I think Limerick have exactly the capabilities that Offaly struggle with, which is big, strong, athletic players around the middle of the field. Offaly have fast, skillful players, but struggle with size in the middle, and have done now for several years. And that's the reality of the breeding policies in Offaly, is that we seem to be producing lads who are not exceptionally tall.
We have a goal in Clarny, Paul. Not that it's going to make a huge difference to the overall picture. Galway turned over a Kerry kick out, did very well. Shane Ryan went short, was gathered by Gavin White. Brilliant tackle, textbook tackle from Johnny Heaney. Fell to Rob Finnerty. He slipped in Tom O'Culhan, and Tom O'Culhan did as Tom O'Culhan does and finished well to the net. So it's now 15 points to 9. Kerry will be a bit disappointed, but they've only scored 2 points in the last 14 minutes. David Clifford free and Paddy or Shawnee Shea free. I think maybe Shawnee Shea got a point from play as well, but they've been Shane Ryan's about to get turned over here again coming out. Galway are going after it, to be fair to him, but Kerry managed to scramble it and are coming out with Ronan Buckley.
We'll talk about this later on when we record the podcast for the week, but do Kerry look a bit disjointed to you?
They're not going at full steam at the moment, Paul, but I wouldn't be worried about it because it's a bit early. In Kerry's big picture, it's a small bit early, and there's, I think, more so than anything systematic, individually some of their players have a couple of notches that they can go up and will need to go up as the season goes on. But no, they're not going at full throttle at the moment, and that wouldn't be by design, but I wouldn't be overly worried, to be honest.
I think, Paul, overall it's actually hard to believe there's only 3 points in it, to be honest. The level of superiority Kerry have had in this game, they've dominated Galway. I don't think there's any way to say it. And we're 6 points up, 15-9, a minute ago, and got a kick out off, and it was a sloppy one to give away. It's a sloppy goal to give away. But as regards the difference, there's been a significant difference between the two teams.
Do you see? You see it as a gap then, James? You see there's a significant gap there.
Yeah, I think Kerry have been good today. I think they've done a job very well, and a couple of their players have Joe Connor, guys in the middle of the field. There's a few guys that have put up their hand, I would say. That will definitely give Jack something to think about. So I think Kerry or Galway are making a dramatic late fight. There's 3 minutes of injury time. It's down to 2 points, but I still think in the wider scheme of things, I think Kerry have been good today and have a few more options perhaps.
Brendan was talking to us about a goal that was chalked off up in Newry a few minutes ago. Well, have now scored 2 goals on the bounce straight away, and now lead, it seems. Brendan, it's you're up in Parkester, down or out the gate.
They are, yeah. I think you put the jinx on them when you're asking about a possible Clare goal there, Paul. And since then, it's been one-way traffic in the other direction. Yeah, a clear-cut penalty for the first, which was put away by Aldrin Murdoch, the midfielder, and then literally from the kick out, There I was writing my notes to describe the penalty. You look up and Danny McGill is putting the ball in the net. So 3-10 to 1-5 now with 15 minutes to go. And it's pretty much game over here now.
You going to beat the traffic?
Oh, I wish. Oh, you might see a few of the Clare lads now getting up and leaving, but you wouldn't blame them. As Morris will know, us reporters have to be here for a long time afterwards. We'll be turning off the lights.
Yeah, such a heroism, Brendan, right on the front line up in
tough job, lads. Tough job.
Up in Uri. 3-10 to 1-5. So and Down Down are now we can say that Down are going to win that division and will be followed up by Westmeath, who now can't be caught by Clare regardless of what happens down in Sligo. So the key games then left in Division 4 or Division 3 are Antrim and Wicklow up in Belfast and Offaly and Limerick in Tullamore. So what it means what it means is that Wicklow must beat Antrim. Wicklow must beat Antrim in Corrigan Park if they are to survive, and if they do, they will relegate Wicklow and they will themselves be safe. And Offaly, if Wicklow do win, Offaly need to beat Limerick in Tullamore, and Offaly currently lead by a point in Tullamore. So if we go to Belfast, where David Maughan is in Corrigan Park and is watching, how do things stand at the moment, David?
Antrim lead by a goal. There's just over 10 minutes to go. Wicklow had a pretty good start to the second half with a couple of points, but Antrim hit 4 and spin, went 6 clear. You thought, it's looking good, but just over the past 5 minutes or so, Wicklow have just kind of crept their way back into the game. We're on the attack there for a goal chance. Had a shout for a penalty, but I don't think it was, and it was waved away. So it's getting a little bit nervy here. You're starting to see that Wicklow, they need to win, obviously. So they're really that push is starting to come now. The home fans are starting to get a little bit nervous because they've seen this before last year with big leads blown.
Well, if you want to increase their nerves, you can tell them that Offaly have gone 2 points ahead with the Dillon Highland point in O'Connor Park, which means that if Antrim lose, they'll be relegated.
Yeah, that's the way of it. It's very much in Antrim's hands. There's a bit of a break here for an injury to, I can't see who it is. I think it's Big Rory McCann, actually. But yeah, Antrim just kind of need a score to here because Wicklow are starting to believe.
And what have we left in that match, David?
Just 10 minutes to go now.
10 minutes with a
111 to 11 points. Yeah, that goal is before the half. Big Rory McCann. I think the ball came down with snow on it. It was a bit of a speculative shot. It dropped. Big McCann is a handful around the penalty area. It's his first involvement this year. Just get up and got the final touch to the net. Kind of goal out of nowhere, but it could be the difference between staying in Division 3 and relegation at the moment for both these teams.
Do you see progress from Antrim in the course of this league?
It's been difficult because there's been an awful lot of injuries, and we've commented a few times about the fellas who actually aren't on the field. You look at the teammates and play Meath in the Carlson Cup semi-final last year, missing quite a few. Big Rory McCann mentioned today, that's his first involvement. A couple of his club mates have missed out as well. It's been very, very difficult. Grandy McEntee, he's been kind of having to play with what he had, so it's hard to judge really. He's not been helped. There's been something like 12 injured, so I mean that's what's going to affect any team.
So we'll be waiting. We'll be back to you before the end of this game, David, for an update.
Go ball.
In O'Connor Park, Offaly lead 1-9 to 10 points, which basically leaves it all on that game in Corrigan Park, and do it all over in Killarney yet, Eamon?
Yeah, all over here, Paul. 15 points to 110. Was there anything else to report really at the end? There wasn't. There was one goal-mouth scramble there at the end where Conor Gleeson happened to be having the last punch and a high ball in at the Kerry goals, but it went wide as Galway tried to steal it at the end. But look, James summed it up well there a couple of minutes ago. Kerry played a lot of the football. Galway stayed in it. The goal kind of brought them back into it. Kerry, I think they'll be a bit disappointed with their play in the final third. A lot of the rest of it was very good in terms of their own kick out, other than the goal. The approach to the opposition kick out was very good. They did very well in the Galway kick out. I'd be interested to see the stats in that. But their play in the final third definitely needs a bit of work. But look, going off on a warm weather camp now, with an opportunity to have a focus like that and something in particular to focus on and maybe direct their camp, that's a fantastic place to be. And, they got players in. The two Cliffords only played 20-25 minutes. The likes of Brianna Beagliach, Paul Ganey, Stephen O'Brien, Armin Heinrich, lads that wouldn't have played much during the league, got game time into them, which is all positive. So happy in the kingdom, but they'll be appreciative that there's a bit of work to do as well.
Joe O'Connor, man of the match, Eamon?
Yeah, he was very good, James. I thought both himself and Barry Sullivan, because, pre-season, and thoughts going around my head for a piece for tomorrow, an article for tomorrow, is that definitely that's been a positive for them, that there was, a lot of talk about the middle of the field prior to the start of the league, and Diarmuid O'Connor has been injured for the last couple of games as well, but Barry and Joe O'Connor have struck up a good partnership. So that's been a big positive for Kerry.
Kerry were carving teams open from the first start of the league. Scored 2 goals against Derry. Had how many chances against Mayo? I guess same thing against Dublin. It's now 1 goal in the 3 games since that Dublin game. That goal next time against Roscommon. Do you sense they've dialed it back a small bit?
I think so, Morris. Yeah, I think so. I think there isn't as much in terms of flooding everyone forward. There's definitely a bit more, thought being put into minding the house as well. Prior to that Dublin game, there was an awful lot of support from the half back line and even full back line, the likes of that goal against Derry. It was Tom Sullivan that passed it into Graham O'Sullivan, and then it was Dylan Casey that finished the goal. So your 3 members of the full back line were creating a goal at the far end of the pitch. So I think there's definitely been a bit of a rejig in that regard. But, like I said, they will be looking to work on that final part of the game. But, from a Kerry's perspective, traditionally, that is probably the part that you'd like to be working on going into the championship, rather than trying to shore it up at the back or be looking for players or looking for form. To be working on your attacking play isn't the most it isn't the worst place in the world to be.
Jim O'Connor, Tom O'Sullivan, Jason Foley, how far away are they, Eamon?
There's no real reports, James, on how far away they are. Like the reports in Jason this week, Diarmuid Murphy mentioned it at the Munster Championship launch that he would definitely miss the Munster Championship and maybe even under pressure to be back for the All-Ireland series. So, that's not ideal for Kerry, not ideal for Jason. Whatever about missing a game or two, missing 2, 3, 4 games and then trying to get back up to speed at that stage of the season could be challenging. So Diarmuid O'Connor has missed a couple of games already, and same with Tom. So you'd imagine they should be a bit further down the tracks.
Bit of warm weather over the next week or so will accelerate the recovery.
They could do it with Ben and Kerry.
Yeah. Where are they going, Eamon?
Going to Delago, Paul, in Portugal. So Cork were over there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but they got washed out of it. The weather was better here than it was there. Yeah, the weather was terrible for them. Yeah, Sean Powter said that.
You're joking, mate. Jeez.
Down in Markovich Park, Sligo have scored a goal. Sean Carbine's an excellent footballer, by the way.
Really good player.
113 113 to 9 against Westmeath now, which kind of shows you Clare were right in that for a long stretch before coming undone. So I think they'll rue that as a missed opportunity. I'm told that the place where the Kerry footballers go is the same place as the Ireland rugby team, as well as Cork. So obviously there's no expense spared when it comes to the pursuit of Dublin and the attempt to reclaim the.
This is for anyone of my generation that knows this spot well. This is a big Instagram spot. You can turn up at the door and pay into. It's called the campus. Anybody it's a very well known spot amongst. I'm not surprised you didn't know that, no, Paul. But
let's do Jack and the Kerry lads.
Easy now, bit of ageism coming in.
I was just thinking there. You played the age card there very very randomly there, Morris.
No, it's a social media thing. It's a really big brand, and it's not a brand, but it's a very big trend on Instagram. A lot of the down footballers would have spent a long time there during their off season last year. That it's like you can turn up. I think there's an Irish girl who works on the desk there, so it'd be a very common getaway spot that you can go away for a holiday there and do kind of all sorts of training, and you rub shoulders with.
I hope Jack isn't tuned in at the moment, Morris, or he'll be telling you to shut up. You'll have another. There'll be a few people over there to be looking expats over in Portugal trying to watch Kerry next week.
Eamon, you know they have history, Morris and Jack. You know that.
I know that.
There's been a grand rapprochement in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. I think everything is much better than it was previously, and Jack will surely be bullish after today's result.
Do you know what, Paul? I think, and Jack won't show too many emotions, but that was a very strong sort of feel to that Kerry team today. They just, he'd be happy that Galway got it close in the end, because he'd be able to use that. They have players like the Joe O'Connors and, some debutants in there, you guys, and he'll be very happy with that today, where it is and how it sets them up, heading away now for a week. Everyone there, he mightn't say it, but he'll be very happy with that. I think where things are.
We're left with Division 4 as the great outstanding question to be answered. Then the only thing to be clarified in the league is who will join Limerick in relegation. Will it be Antrim, Wicklow, or Offaly? Morris, have you any updates from any of those venues?
Down are 311 to 17 up, so they're home and host. Probably went the way we would have anticipated that division going to a certain extent in the end, which maybe as a team across a lot of our picks at the start of the year, I think a lot of people would have maybe said that Dublin were going to make a league final and come on strong. Roscommon and Monaghan would have been the bookies' favourites, so to speak, to go down there. So you see that kind of team trickle down to Division 3 there. I do think it's a big step forward for Conor Laverty. Off the back of what the league campaigns that they've enjoyed before, even going to Westmeath, and maybe there was a bit of hype around that and they didn't get the result that they would have wanted there. So just to get it done, to get up, I think has them nicely poised to give a proper rattling in Ulster Championship. They play. It's interesting. We would have all looked at this and said Armagh on the easier side of the draw. Is that what they say in regards to the Ulster Championship draw? But I think Downhill would back themselves fully to have a right go there. That would view themselves as, if not equals, based off maybe last year's game, but certainly well able to compete there. So they're moving in a nice trajectory for the summer.
It has implications as well for Tailteann Cup if Down were to do that, and it has implications if Kildare are on the opposite side of the draw to Dublin, Meath, and Offaly in Leinster. So they'll have to get by Louth and Westmeath in particular to get to a Leinster final, which they could do, which has implications for teams in the bottom range of the division. The full time in Croke Park was Dublin 5 goals and 18 points, Tyrone 12 points, wow. And a 21 point difference. And
wow.
I've had messages from Croke Park to say that it could and should have been much worse, which is somewhat ominous for Tyrone in this year, and it confirms that in the Division 1 league final, this year Dublin will play Derry, which of course was last year's Division 2 final. And what a difference a year make. In the other Division 1 game, which we haven't featured for the last while because it doesn't quite line into it, Monaghan are lost to Mayo by 2-13 to 1-14. Monaghan actually finished with 13 players. Andrew Woods got a red card 23 minutes into that game, and then late in the game they lost players to injury and had used all of their subs. So a 2-point win for Mayo in this game. Roscommon Derry ended 2-19 to 1-8. They Derry beat Roscommon in that crucial game at the relegation end of the team. And what I think what makes that really interesting is that Derry and Roscommon were level 7 minutes into the second half, and then Derry put on the afterburners and burned away. And as we said already, 0-15 for Kerry, 1-10 for Galway, and by the sounds of it, it's as convincing a 2-point victory as you could have. In Division 3, it's clear that both Down and Westmeath have been promoted, and at the bottom of the table, Limerick are now back to within 2 points of Offaly, but that game will not matter unless Wicklow stage a late comeback against Antrim. And for those of you who are late joining us and who haven't followed, we saw earlier Longford, who were all set to join Laois in promotion for Division 4, being dismantled dismantled by Wexford, who gave themselves every chance of being promoted, but needed Tipperary to do them a huge favour, which they didn't get. We're joined now by David Mohan, who's up in Corrigan Park in Belfast, the Croke Park of the North. David, what's the situation later on?
We are deep. We're actually in full time. That's it. Antrim have survived. That goal just on the stroke of half time from Rory McCann's proving the difference. Wicklow really came into that in the second half. They got the win too on a number of occasions. But Paddy McBride, St John's man on his home patch, kicked some massive scores for Antrim, and just settled nerves right at the end when Wicklow to win too. They needed a goal to snatch the win, stay up, but Antrim have survived in any case.
So a 2-point win for Antrim.
Yep, 114 to 14 points is finished.
So three points in it in the end. So that puts Antrim finishing the table on 6 points, and Wicklow are relegated with just the 2 points, the victory over Limerick last week.
Yeah, that was the case of it today. Wicklow had to win this game, even a draw wouldn't have been good enough because Offaly had the head-to-head on them. So 3 points was imperative for Oisin McConville's side, but not to be today. They didn't overly. Well, had a couple of half-goal chances towards the end. Kevin Quinn was their best in the day. He kind of shot over from a pretty tight angle. He probably did the right thing to take the point at that stage. But it was win or bust for Wicklow today, and unfortunately for them, it's bust.
Thank you very much, David, and we look forward to you reporting from Casement Park at some point in the future. We're nearly wrapped here today for this special live broadcast. We'll finish out the Division 3 scores by telling you that Sligo have beaten Westmeath with an impressive performance of 114 to 11 points, and I think Sligo will rue the manner in which they fell away in the middle point of the league. And I think this was an opportunity that Sligo could have used this season to have been promoted. So to wrap on the news for today, before we record the podcast, which will be available later on today, reviewing all the league and kicking forward to the league finals next week. Derry defeated Roscommon, Dublin beat Tyrone, Kerry beat Galway, and Mayo beat Monaghan, meaning that Dublin won the league. Dublin and Derry are through to the league final, and Monaghan and Roscommon are relegated. In Division 3, Wicklow and Limerick were relegated, with Down and Westmeath promoted. And in Division 4, Leitrim joined Laois in promotion, with Waterford finishing bottom of the division. And last night, to conclude all the divisions in Division 2, Armagh joined Donegal in promotion, and relegated were Fermanagh and Kildare. Kildare finished the league on no points for the season. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us today. Thank you to our correspondents all across the grounds on the country. A huge thanks to Raf Rocca for putting together this broadcast, to Adrian Russell and to Tony Lean for all their support with it as well. A massive thank you to Allianz for what they've done for us today as well. Thank you to James Horan, to Eamon Fitzmaurice, and to Maurice Brosnan. Béimi Tarnashkalua.